Welcome to PPC Hot Takes. In this episode, I have a very special guest, Pete Bowen. If you have been scouring the RPPC subreddit, you may think that this name is familiar. And actually, now you could probably connect the face to the name because he is a very popular participant in the RPPC subreddit. That's where we actually met, believe it or not. And today he is going to be sharing about a hot take when it comes to PPC. I'm going to give you a little bit of background about him. So he's an ex-engineer turned PPC marketer and has been managing Google Ads since 2007. So that makes him an 18-year veteran of PPC. He's currently residing in Paradise, aka Gran Canaria, which is an island in Spain, while managing PPC clients as well as an agency. So thank you so much, Pete, for joining me today.
It's wonderful to be here again.
Awesome.
Well, when I say here again, it's wonderful to be talking to you again. First time on your show.
Awesome. Well, in this episode, we're going to explore Pete's hot take. And his hot take is your biggest influence as an advertiser actually happens outside of the Google Ads account. So we're going to dive into this topic very deeply, especially when it comes to, actually being able to convert leads into sales. So Pete, you've been in this industry for 18 years. I've been in this industry for almost a decade now. If I had $1 for every time I had a client tell me my leads aren't converting into sales, I'm getting too many unqualified leads, my leads are ghosting, I'd be a multimillionaire, and I'm sure you would be too, right?
It would be lovely to be paid for all of those leads the clients have mishandled.
Oh, goodness. And I'm sure that everyone that's watching this has felt or come across these types of concerns, whether you're managing ads for a client or you are managing the ads yourself. These thoughts are going through your mind as you're optimizing. So today we're going to be uncovering the truth behind actually being able to optimize a campaign outside of Google Ads. And Pete's going to argue why your biggest opportunities to getting the best results with Google Ads actually happens outside of the Google Ads account. So Pete, take me through your thought process here, and let's really dissect your thoughts around this.
Can I start by telling you a story?
Absolutely.
Okay, and the reason this came to mind is that you said that I've been doing ads since for the last 18 years, and that's true. And one of the very earliest clients I had he had a factory and he made mattresses, the kind of thing you sleep on. And we did Google Ads for him. And as it turns out, there were people who wanted to buy mattresses, and enough of them would search. And we had that exact conversation you're referring to, the poor quality lead conversation. So why am I paying you all this money? None of these leads turn into sales. And my business partner at the time, he asked him, he said to this, he was an elderly gentleman. He said, tell me about what happens when the lead comes in. He said, well, I get that lead in my office. And then I send the email off to the people who handle the leads in the factory. And so my partner asked him, he said, well, tell me about these people. He said, well, they also work in the factory. These are the ladies that operate the sewing machines that we use to make the mattresses. But at the end of the day, if they've got time, they go to the computer in the break room and they pull up the leads, and then they'll try and contact these leads. Of course, you can imagine what was going on in our heads. And I'd looked through the leads, and there was a fantastic inquiry from a hotel that was being built in a neighboring country, and they wanted 400 double bed mattresses or king size mattresses, I forget, for their new hotel. And I said, please tell me you handled this lead properly. He says, I don't discriminate. Everybody gets treated the same. And that hotel lead, which would be they would have paid for everything. That lead,
maybe for years.
Yeah, could have been, and it would have turned into an ongoing relationship because they replace mattresses at a hotel every few months, I've discovered. Anyway, he sent these he sent these leads off to the ladies at the factory, and when they got time, if they'd finished making mattresses early, they would then do something. And then he showed me, okay, now we're going back. So there might be some people here who don't remember what a fax is. But they would fax a price list. The only response to the lead was to phone up, say, what's your fax number? And then they would fax this price list. But this price list had been photocopied so many times that you could hardly read it. This was impossible. This guy could not close a sale if you beat him over the head with it. And obviously this frustrated the heck out of me, and he was a client for a little while longer, but we could never fix that problem. And the same thing happened about half a year ago. And I can't believe that there's been so long, but 18 years have passed and people are still doing the same thing. This was with a therapist. He's really busy, but he would respond by email 3 or 4 days after the lead came in. This is somebody who's contacted him at their lowest point, desperate for help. And his website says, we can help you. Contact us to schedule a free consultation. We can help you soon. Anyway, the same kind of thing. The lead quality is poor. They're all tire kickers. He closed, I think, he made 3 sales out of 63 leads that we sent him in the first month. But those people must have been so desperate to actually wait 3 or 4 days and get the email. And all his email had the charm of a parking ticket. It was like, you contacted me, click here to book a time to talk to me. It was that. There was no warmth, no sympathy, no empathy, nothing that said, you're in the worst possible time of your life. I'm ready to help you deal with this. 18 years difference, and those are still the same. And if I'm lucky enough to continue to do this for the next 18 years, I think we could have the same conversation in 2000 and whatever it will be, because people just really don't handle leads well. Sorry, I got a bit excited there, but let's carry on.
No, that's great. I think you make a really great point that no matter what, whether it's 18 years ago or, fast forwarding 18 years, it's going to be an issue as long as we're doing lead generation for clients, because a lot of clients just don't know how to handle the leads. So let's talk about this, Pete. Can you break down what post-click optimization means in the context of PPC?
Okay. I suppose the typical thought is conversion rate optimization on a landing page, making the page fast, reducing clutter and distraction, designed for readability, headlines that keep, the normal kind of landing page things. And I've done a lot of work in that space. I probably spent 2,000 hours over the last 18 years working on improving landing page quality, because you're trying to turn more clicks into leads. So that's your typical conversion rate optimization stuff. But I think that there's more to it than that, because there's a lot that can go wrong between the time a lead arrives at, through a contact form or phone call or messenger or whatever it is, and the time that sale is made. And I think that as PPC people, the skills that we have translate quite well into optimizing what happens after the click, as well as the kinds of things that we would do inside the platform.
So tell me why you think that it's more important to focus on the post-click rather than the pre-click, and what you can actually optimize within the platform.
Okay, let's just talk numbers. I'm probably going to make some mistakes doing maths in my head. So if I do, forgive me, we're hoping to get directionally correct. Firstly, inside the platform, we have fewer and fewer levers every month. Every time Google has an update, they take away one of the levers that we can use to do our pre-click optimization. And so we're getting to the point, and I don't think it's, I'm not catastrophizing about this. I don't think it's too long until we have almost no pre-click levers that we can use to make meaningful changes to who sees our ad and who clicks on those ads. And so let's think about something like cost per click. Assume, I'm making a very rough example. Assuming you've got a $10 cost per click, and that's kind of normal in a lot of industries in the US. Obviously, if you're some crazy legal vertical, you'd sell your soul for a $10 click. But let's assume that there's your click costs $10, and you've got a landing page conversion rate of 1%. Man, I've seen landing page conversion rates like that. It's not great, but that means it takes you 100 clicks to get a lead. So you've spent $1,000 for that lead. If you wanted to get that lead cost down to 100 in the platform, you would have to reduce your CPC from $10 to $1. I mean, is that possible? Probably not. Or really difficult anyway. You would spend an enormous amount of time trying to reduce the CPC from 10 down to 100. If you put some effort into your landing page, could you take a landing page that was converting at 1% and turn it into a landing page that converted at 10%? It's work, and at scale it might be difficult, but it's not beyond. But it's not an impossible work, and all of the levers are in your control. The CPC levers are in Google's control and in the market's control. The landing page levers, they're all in your control. So the effort that you put there tends to, you might not go from 1% to 10% in a month, but you could go from 1% landing page conversion rate to 5% landing page conversion rate without that much difficulty in a month, which immediately drops your lead cost, if my math is right, from $1,000 per lead to $500 per lead.
Yeah, absolutely.
That's a nice achievement.
Absolutely. And I think the other argument, that's a great way to articulate it, Pete. I think the other argument about dropping your CPC, there's only so much you can really drop it, right? And there's only so much you can really do, because it's the competition that really dictates that. And there's a floor. You're never going to be able to get leads under a certain amount in a certain industry.
That's right.
And if you want leads to be or cost per click to be even lower, you better go check another platform outside of Google Ads.
And then there's another thing to think about, because I've had this conversation with clients, especially ones who've done ads, who are familiar with the ecosystem from a long time ago, when you did have levers to change your CPC. You could bid on plurals instead of singulars, and that might make a difference. Now you don't get that choice. And the other thing is that if whatever you do to bring your CPC down, that CPC is likely to go up again. And things being as they are, that CPC tends to go up more faster than you can raise what you're charging your clients, or your client is charging their clients. So there's always the squeeze on profitability from what it costs to get a visitor onto your page.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. I want to jump into the next thing. What are the biggest mistakes that you see with people who are sending traffic to their landing pages or websites from a lead generation perspective?
I mean, there are loads of them.
Biggest mistakes.
Okay, you're putting me on the spot here. I think the biggest mistake is that they haven't thought the landing page through in terms of, they haven't thought about it as a persuasion tool. So what you want is when somebody lands on your page, you want this conversation going on their minds, and almost like little thought bubbles popping up. Okay, I clicked on an ad for a custom oak dining table. Oh yes, there's a headline, custom oak. Oh, that's a nice picture. I'm in the right place. Oh yeah, these guys understand what I'm doing. They know how difficult it is to get a table that matches my 18-foot dining room or can fit my 12 children or 15 friends or whatever it is. Okay, yeah, this is how you'll do it. We'll have a consultation and they'll design it, then you'll order. Okay, 6 weeks. And so there's this conversation that goes in your head where a person arrives there with some sort of intent, and then through the kind of through the vertical of the page from top to bottom, you're convincing, you want them to think this until they get to the point where, oh yeah, it's obvious. The next step now is to contact this person because they can do that. So, I mean, it's easy to make mistakes anywhere in that process. I think if you're asking about the biggest mistake, it's not understanding that that's what the page has to do.
Yeah. I think a good analogy is like, having someone, go into a restaurant. They think it's Chinese food, but then they walk in and it's Mexican food. And they're like, what the heck is happening? I was looking for Chinese food. And they just leave.
Yeah,
And that's the thing. Like when it comes to landing page optimization, you need to give them what they came for.
yeah.
And that's why you have to tie the keywords to the ads to the landing page. And if you've got them all mixed up and you don't have a very clear way of explaining what you do and what you have to offer, people are just going to bounce because they think that they're in the wrong place.
The best person that I've read on writing Google Ads copy, a lady called Amy Hebden, and you should definitely be speaking with her. She says something that completely resonates with me. She says, if it's in the ad, it has to be on the landing page. So if you promise a free consultation, the landing page has to scream free consultation. If you promise Mexican food, as you're saying there, the landing page has got to be, this is the Mexican food landing page.
Exactly. Let's talk about speed to lead because you shared a little bit about that mattress client. He waited how many? He had his quote
Yeah,
unquote speed.
he had no speed to lead.
He was dragging his feet.
Yeah, his speed to lead was measured in days.
Oh goodness. Yeah, and I had a client that, offers waxing and tanning services, and we set up a landing page for him, and we were driving leads from the landing page to, the email inbox that he wanted the leads to go to. And he was like, what do you think is an acceptable amount of time? Do you think that an acceptable amount of time to follow up is within 48 hours? And I was like, no way.
No.
So let's break this down. Let's talk about speed to lead. What is it? And what's your recommendation for how quickly to follow up in order to convert that lead into a client?
Okay, so speed to lead is if a lead contacts you using a non-synchronous mechanism. Sorry, that was a terrible word. If a lead contacts you by filling in a contact form, or if they leave a message because your lead response center can't handle those leads, or you're up on a ladder because you're running your own business and dealing all the leads, the time it takes to get back to that lead, to speak to that lead. I'm not talking about an email or an autorespond or something. The time it takes to speak to the lead is probably the most significant driver of improved conversion rate. There's a study that comes from MIT in 2007. So it's pretty old, but it's kind of been the benchmark in this. I'm not sure if you've read that study. I can send you the PDF. But basically, that their study showed that lead quality improved by 26% when the speed to lead went from 30 minutes to 10 minutes. I mean, what else can you do to improve lead quality by 26%? Better ad copy, optimize for qualified leads. There's almost nothing you can do in the platform, and there's almost nothing you can do on your landing page to get better lead quality. Just phoning them faster improves the lead quality, and I've seen it over and over again. Regarding speed to lead, instant is the benchmark. And I've been working with some clients who've been putting some fairly fancy automation in. When you click the submit button on the form, the phone starts ringing within the time it takes for Twilio's API to process to receive. It's within seconds. I think for most businesses, a target of 5 minutes during working hours is the gold standard. I really like getting involved in automating these things to make it faster. In fact, I'm working with a client who runs an auto or a bunch of auto dealerships, and we're currently setting up a system so that when the form arrives, this system starts dialing the salespeople that are that are in the branch that the form is being routed to. So instead of waiting for, previously we had an auto routing that would then send a message to the salesman saying, hey, you've got a new lead, call them. We're now jumping over that, and we're calling the salesman.
To connect.
Yeah, that's it.
Direct
Press 1 to
connection.
accept this lead. When they press that, it then starts dialing that lead.
Yeah,
So
I love that.
Instant is kind of
The gold
the
standard
bar.
these days.
Yeah, I
Yeah,
think it is.
yeah. And yeah, I mean, how do you, I don't, there's no more argument that you could make for that, because people, they want what they want when they're searching for it, and if you
Yeah.
make them wait, they're just going to keep going down that list doing their search.
I think what's
So
happened is we've seen people, their expectations have been lowered and raised. So their expectations of getting a good response from a lead form have been lowered. So as you say, they don't think they're going to get it right. So they click on everybody's ad, yay Google, and they go down that list and they fill in everybody's form. And their expectations are higher. They want instant results. They want to get this done right now.
yeah, honestly, the bar is low. I've done Google searches, try to call up contractors, and I don't get phone calls right away. In fact, maybe after a couple hours, or maybe even the next day, someone will
Yeah.
call me and say, "Hey, like, you submit a form on my website?" I was like, "Too late." Like that's really bad service. I'm
And
not
that's
even a customer.
$100.
Yeah, exactly.
That's kind of the rate. If it's gutters in Florida, it's $200. If it's an HVAC client, it's more than that.
Yeah.
So that's a lot of money to be throwing away because you don't have someone to make that call.
Yeah, exactly. So let me ask you this then, Pete. Going back to that initial conversation that we had at the start of this, when a client says, my leads aren't converting into sales, where do you then start your diagnoses in order to help them get on the right track and help them start,
Yeah,
moving towards getting sales? What do you look at?
I love it when a client says that. So the first thing I do is to try and map out the steps, the process from lead to sale. And if it's a client with a reasonable lead volume, sort of under 1,000 leads in a month, I'll try and put those leads into a spreadsheet and have them then work out when that lead took each step. So a typical thing, let's just talk about like a landscaping contractor, for example. The lead to sale process will be: lead arrives, call that lead to talk to them about what they want, book a time to go out and inspect the site, prepare a proposal or an estimate or a quote or whatever, submit the quote to the client, and then the quote gets approved. So each of those, I mean, that's kind of a pretty standard pattern for a lot of industries. And if there's a problem with the client not making sales, and you start mapping out how many leads go through that, you can start to see trends. So for instance, if you find that a whole bunch of leads are not contacted, we've probably got the kind of issue that we're talking here, where the client's response process isn't good. The faster you call, the more likely it is that you contact. Or the client's sending emails and his emails are ending up in a spam filter. So there's something we can do there. If we find that the client's making contact, he's speaking to the people, but he's not going out and doing a lot of proposals, there's probably something wrong with the targeting of the ads. Are we getting people from out of area? Are we getting people who have a $5,000 budget and he's a $50,000 contractor? So, we can start trying to understand why people aren't progressing from one step to the next. But until you start looking at that, clients typically have this kind of, and I say this with incredible respect to the people who've been kind enough to pay my bills for me, but they often have a gut feeling about what's wrong with the leads, and it's usually the leads are rubbish. They're all tire kickers. Can I tell you another story without sounding like a graybeard old man?
Absolutely.
I had a client for many years, a South African client, who they replaced engines on VW Beetles. You know, the old
Oh yeah, I
original
know.
hippie
Hmm.
van, or hippie Beetle, and then the bigger one, the van. And people who want to buy those engines really love those cars because they're doing them up and they're cherishing these antique cars. Anyway, he uh, he inherited this business from his dad, and included in the inheritance was this lady. I won't mention her name in case she watches this, but she told me once. She said, "Peter, I can tell by what's written in the lead if this is a serious player or not." She probably had a stronger South African accent, and she had in her mind she had this gut instinct to be able to read the inquiry and then reject it. And
Oh
so if
goodness.
somebody spelt something wrong, if they used an emoji, or
Hmm.
if they said TX for thanks, or TKS for thanks, anything that was invented after about 1970, if they spoke like that, she just threw away the leads. And my client didn't know this was happening because I think he was probably a bit scared of her, so he wasn't going into the workshop. He was kind of focused on some other parts of the business. Anyway, once we started mapping the leads through this, just with a simple spreadsheet, this person's name, date in which they arrived, date in which you called them, date in which you quoted, we realized that there were glaring holes in the process. And it was because of silly things like this. I could tell you 100 stories. I don't want to bore you about that. One more?
Okay, one more.
Okay, stop me if I'm going on too long. Uh, a law firm client in the US, and you know what law firm leads in almost any industry would
Yeah.
cost. And uh, they had a call center that had limited capacity, but they wanted to keep advertising even during the hours that the call center wasn't open. So every morning, the call center people would come there, and there would be a backlog of leads for the night. And one of the managers said, for some reason, told the call center operators, you've got to call all of those leads first thing in the morning. That's really important, which is kind of right.
Hmm.
What that person didn't say is, don't ignore the ringing phones because you're trying to call people who called last night. So what was happening is that they were trying to call yesterday's leads, and today's leads, the hot ones
We're
arriving
being
right away, were all
ignored.
going to voicemail.
Oh goodness.
And that's it's kind of an obvious thing, but if you're not paying for those leads and somebody comes to you and said, "Hey, you better call those leads first," perhaps you're not going to think that through. So, sorry, to answer your question, to come back to it, we put the leads by name in a spreadsheet, and we map through the initial diagnosis. We map all of those leads through the flow to try and figure out where we should be focusing our effort.
Basically, the way that you're describing things, you're taking things way beyond what a typical PPC practitioner or PPC manager would do. The typical PPC manager or agency is just going to say, well, the job's done within the platform. After we take the ads live, then we can optimize it. We'll do whatever we can to, optimize it. Sometimes they'll stop at just the ad platform and they'll say, okay, you're responsible. We're directing to your website or a landing page, and they're not consulting or giving you feedback on it. And then when you're questioning why the leads aren't working, then they're pointing the finger and not the thumb
Uh-huh.
and saying like, okay, well, it's your website. Or they'll say something along the lines of maybe it's the way that you're taking the phone calls, but they're not digging deeper. So tell me then, Pete, you're taking things really deep when it comes to your clients and lead generation. I take things as deep as you too when it comes to actually optimizing for my clients. And when I get the feedback like, oh, my leads aren't turning into sales, my leads are ghosting me, what do? I try to diagnose what's happening outside of the platform because I know that there's only so many levers, just like we talked about. So, what do you have to say to those PPC managers or agencies that are so focused only on optimizing within the platform? Maybe just touching the landing pages. Maybe they're doing some landing page optimization, perhaps, but they're not actually touching or consulting on what's actually happening from the lead to the actual sale.
Yeah. Well, what I'd say is that one is when your client is making a lot of money out of your leads, your job becomes so much easier. You don't have to struggle to get the last lead out of the budget, because they're much more profitable. The other thing is, our skills as PPC people are actually, they fit quite well optimizing a lead to sale process. Everything I've said about diagnosing, we're not looking at impressions, clicks, and conversions. We're now looking at leads, contacts, and quotes, or leads, quotes, and sales. But the process is the same. So I think our mathematical skills, the ability to look at data and understand that, I think we can serve our clients well without having to learn a whole bunch of new things. We all want to add value. Some businesses won't let you get involved in that.
I was going to say that too, because there have been times where I've personally tried to get involved by either get a spreadsheet, we'll get a CRM set up, and the team just croaks because they're just like, oh my God, this is too much for my team to handle.
Yeah.
Like, where do I even start? And I coach them on, this is what we need to do. And they're just like, okay, like, and then they get stuck, and then they don't want to make the improvements in order to see better results. But then yet I still keep hearing the same feedback over and over and over. Have you dealt with that before?
Yeah, I have. In fact, in some way, the current the current state of the economy in the US, it's proving to be a mixed blessing. Clients that have been ignoring my requests to fix their lead to sale process are suddenly waking up and realizing that leads are costing twice as much, and the lead volumes aren't what they were a year ago. And
so what can you actually optimize your lead to close?
That's it. We're going to now we're going to work on this. The thing that we've been talking about for a year, we're now going to get it done. But yeah, I think you have to be philosophical about this. Some clients won't. You can't help them. They're set in their ways. They have chaotic businesses, big clients and small clients.
Yeah.
It's a miracle that some of them are still in business. Some of them won't accept help. So you help those you can, and have fun doing it.
Yeah, exactly.
Did I answer the question properly?
No, you did.
Okay.
I think
I wondered I might have gone off track slightly.
I think what we're trying to get at is there's only so much you can help a client. You can only help them if they want to be helped, just like a therapist, right? Just like a therapist. Like, you can take the advice from a therapist, but if you're not going to actually do the work, then so be it. And then if you keep complaining about having the same issues, then there's only so much that you're going to be able to take before you say, okay, I'm going to stop working with this agency. Maybe I'm going to find another one. But then you realize that you eventually, maybe after a couple agencies, if everyone's making the same suggestions, then maybe the problem's you and not the agency or Google Ads.
I think it's also time we have the hard conversations. You remember the TV show Suits?
Yes, with Meghan Markle. Mm-hmm.
Yeah, that's right. The main guy, Harvey, I think, Harvey Specter. He in a couple of episodes, he said something along the lines of, "I've got something to say to you, and you're not going to like it," to his clients, and that's always been an inspiration for me. Is I say, look, this is a hard conversation. We need to have it. I can't do much more to improve the lead quality, but I can really help you change more of those, or convert more of those leads into sales. But you're not listening to me. I think we have to have that, because if we don't, we're not doing our clients a favor.
Yeah.
And we're at risk of losing them in spite of everything we can do. And this business, for people who care about this, as I know you do, we've had this conversation one of the first times we spoke. I think the word therapist came in there as well, is that we care deeply about what we do. And we put a lot of ourselves into this, and we feel guilty when things beyond our control don't work. And because of all that, we have to be strong enough to tell a client the truth. I can't make these leads better, or these leads are great. I could give them to any other therapist and they would be grateful for them. But if you can't sell these leads, we're going to end up having to terminate this relationship.
Yeah. Yeah. Sometimes it just takes having to have a very tough conversation with clients to really, get to the point. And like you said, sometimes they don't listen. Sometimes they do. It just depends on the client and what they're willing to, do at that time. So I love this conversation. I'm actually going to start rounding out this conversation and
Okay.
set the airplane or land the plane, as they say. We're going
Okay.
to end with a rapid fire round. So, Pete, are you ready?
That makes me nervous. But go
Yeah,
on.
so these questions you are not prepared for, but we're gonna we're gonna end with this rapid fire round. Just give me in 1 to 2 sentences based off of what I have to, ask you, and then end it with that. So let's go ahead and start here. AI Max Research for your
Uh-huh.
lead gen clients. If you have a professional service based business, is it something you would recommend or not recommend, and why?
I would recommend it in 2028.
Okay. I thought you were going to say
Google's
now.
got a history of bringing stuff in that's terrible for the first 2 years and then brilliant afterwards. Broad match keywords with qualified lead conversion bidding works great. A few years ago, awful. So yeah,
Okay, great. Next question. What are your thoughts on the power pair, which is broad match plus smart bidding for lead generation marketing campaigns?
got lots of. If you have a client with a big budget and a high lead volume, I believe in it. Outside those parameters, it's been pretty hard to make it work.
What's a big budget for everyone listening?
Perhaps not in terms of money, but in terms of lead flow, I'd say around 1,000 leads a month.
Ooh, okay.
With
It's
that,
quite a
that, that,
bit.
that's giving really good I'm getting conversion rates of sort of 12-13% on
Yeah.
4,000 leads a month.
That's amazing. I have a
Yeah.
client, actually, we're using the Power Pair Broad Match plus Smart Bidding. It's a very niche industry, but it's just killing it. I tried starting with other methods, but the Power Pair has worked really well. We're spending probably about 10,000, but we're get a month, but we're getting about 1,000 or more leads coming
Very
from
good.
that.
Yeah, nice.
So that's the case study. Let's see. Do you ever use broad match in your lead gen campaigns to start a campaign?
Yes, I have, but only because nothing else was working. And that's been quite recent. You know the feeling. New client, you're checking, you're hitting that refresh button. Where are the leads? Where are the impressions? Nothing was working. I had everything that I had known about Google Ads seemed broken. I could get no impressions, no clicks until I gave up and I said, okay, we'll put one broad match keyword in there for their most thing, and yeah, it worked, but only when paired with a conversion based bidding strategy. And even though this was a cold start, nothing, no conversions in the account, it seemed to work. I'm not wild about it. Sorry, that was longer than 2 sentences. Next.
No, actually, I think this is a really good topic because I'm gonna derail just for maybe
Uh
one to
huh.
2 minutes because I think this is a very important conversation to have. I launched a locksmith PPC campaign maybe about 2 months ago, and when I launched as a brand new campaign, a search campaign, we were using exact match to start. And as you imagine, just like what you said, it was crickets for maybe a
Yeah.
day or so. I'm logging in, I'm getting butterflies in my tummy. I'm like, well, where's the impressions? Where's the clicks?
Uh huh.
It was just crickets. Then I was like, okay, maybe I should try a little bit of phrase, just open it up a little. not real much. So then I
No.
opened it up to broad and things started actually trickling in.
I,
So things have changed a lot since like even last year.
yeah, I noticed this change with sort of in about February of, we're recording this in 2025. So from about February 2025, nothing that worked back in November and December, well, October, November seem to work. I wonder if Google just won't sell you exact match keywords unless you're buying a bundle of broad match keywords.
Yeah, that could very well be the case. P max for lead gen. Yay or nay? Nay.
Nay, so far. I haven't had any success with it. I've got really good form spam defense that identify. It's pretty much bulletproof, and because that's usually the problem with PMAX is you get flooded with a whole bunch of form spam, conversion fraud spam, and then it sends the bidding algorithm chasing for more spam. But in spite of that, I've not seen it working very well, and I haven't been brave enough to keep trying it. I'm waiting another couple of years until it works.
Yeah, hopefully in 2028, we'll see.
Yeah.
Let me ask you this. Do you think the future of search is keywordless? Is Google going to just completely remove keywords? I'm not talking about I mean, we kind of know that match types are have a very like not a straight meaning these days. But
No.
do you think that the future of search is keywordless, where we just put in our landing page or website, and then Google just going to crawl that content to then determine the best keywords for us?
I don't know. I think Google would like that. I think managing billions of keywords and doing this kind of match between keywords and ads and so on, I think that's become unscalable given the search volume. And Google wants to monetize every single search, which is not always represented by a keyword because of the new way of seeing. But short answers, I don't know. And I'll just suffer with it I'll just cry quietly to myself when they take away my keywords.
Okay. And the final question that I have for you is, are you concerned about the rise of large language models like ChatGPT eating into the search market? And I'm coming at this question from, are you concerned that people are going to be going to large language models like Claude or ChatGPT looking for a locksmith, a doctor, and basically having ChatGPT be that resource instead of Google for lead for the results?
I'm not concerned. I think what we're seeing in the LLM or AI space, we're hearing a lot of noise. And those of us who are attuned to that noise are probably overestimating how important it is. My mom's on Facebook every day. My wife's on Facebook. I haven't been on Facebook for ages. Anyone younger than 30 doesn't even have a Facebook account, but there's still a large number of people with money who are very slow to change, very slow to adopt new technology. So, short answer is I think we will have enough time to adapt. And this is about adapting, isn't it? We had 11 ads when I started, and we had exact match keywords. Then it was a catastrophe. We only had 3 ads. And then we had ads scattered in the middle. And then we had responsive search. The only constant has been constant change. And so I think we'll adapt to that. We'll lose our keywords. Google's AI or somebody else's AI will be the place where we advertise, but we'll roll with it.
Well, you heard it here, folks. Yeah, the only constant is what? Constant
Constant
change.
change. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, we're going to land the plane here, Pete. Thank you so much for joining me in this very thought provoking conversation. I hope that everyone that's listening will be interested in learning more about you. Where's the best place to find you and get in touch?
Probably the best place is my website. It's pete-bowen.com. And there's if you want to contact me, I'm always happy to talk with people about this. PPC can be kind of a lonely business, especially if you're not, working in a massive agency where you have other people. So I really enjoy talking with fellow professionals.
Awesome. Yeah. And I will definitely drop your link in the description below of this video for everyone to check out. And if you like my conversation with Pete, please give this video a thumbs up and let me know below what was your biggest takeaway. Would you like to see Pete again for another hot take? I'm sure we probably could talk for 10 hours about multiple different topics, but we are going to round out this conversation, land the plane here, and we'll see you guys in the next video. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And thank you, Michelle. This has been a real pleasure.
Thank you. Oh my God.